Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan, and thank you for joining us for our Wednesday weather update for May the 3rd. We are still following this enormous area of high pressure out to the east of the country. This is the reason why we are seeing this warm airflow from around the subtropics, just out of the main tropical area, coming down and around and across both main islands. A number of places this morning waking up to temperatures in the very late teens, or even 20 degrees. And that is across both of the main islands of New Zealand. Quite a different story over here around Adelaide and parts of Victoria as a southerly change comes in. But New Zealand has this big northerly, and up in the tropics, southeasterlies and easterlies, which are also coming out from this big area of high pressure. Now, this high pressure zone also has some very heavy rain on the edge of it, on the back end of it. And this is it here. Now, apologies if you're colorblind or vision impaired. This is a little hard to read, but I'll point to the areas as I usually do. I'm usually only pointing to the areas that have got sort of the highest rainfall. And that on this map is coming through here and another line on the west coast. So there could be up to 120 millimeters in the next 24 hours for parts of the west coast, including some of the more populated places like around Hokitika. And then the other area of concern around Taranaki. Now, Taranaki drains off perfectly from the mountain to the sea, but rainfall totals there for the next day or two could be getting up well over 150 to 200 millimeters. So that's the first day of rain from 6 o'clock this morning through to 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then starting from 6 o'clock tomorrow morning through till 6 a.m. on Friday. This is the next burst of rain. And again, the heaviest line through the western side, clipping Mount Taranaki with another 100 millimeters or so. Drill down deeper if you live in Taranaki by going to ruralweather.co.nz. The rainfall totals are hyper-local, and it makes more sense perhaps than some of these big picture maps. Pretty much no rain for the southeastern corner of the South Island, pretty much no rain for the very, very east here as well. But there will be a couple of isolated falls that are heavier, perhaps beyond what you're seeing in that map. And that's due to the instability in the atmosphere. We are seeing a few heavy downpours mixed in with the drizzle. So here is the setup for Thursday. I've added a couple of arrows in here because it sort of really does explain this anticyclonic airflow going around this enormous block of high pressure that's the size of Australia. So the airflow is going past places like Rarotonga, Tonga, Fiji, New Caledonia, all getting the same airflow that's curving down and around into the New Zealand area. So that is why it's warm, and that narrow line of heavy rain stuck on the very back end of that high pressure zone. As we go through to Friday, you can still see this line of rain with heavy falls in the green and the yellow in the middle, that line that I'm pointing to, going in there towards Nelson and Taranaki areas as we go through the day. Most other places, patchy sort of rain or showers and drizzle patches, that's sort of the theme at the moment, and mostly dry still over in the east and warm. Everyone has a northerly airflow, but that is a cold front coming in through here for Adelaide and Melbourne later on across Friday and Hobart. By the time you get into Saturday, colder air for Adelaide, Melbourne and Hobart, and later on Sydney, you'll get a bit of a temperature drop as well. But on the New Zealand side of the Tasman, that warm airflow, it still carries on. Maybe not quite as warm for the South Island. That northerly fades out a little bit on Saturday, but returns to some degree on Sunday. The high to the east, 1040. That's really powerful. And so is the next high coming in behind it. So these are really powerful highs. Normally we would see highs this powerful more towards the end of winter. So it's making things a little messier, and sometimes they do stop. They do stall out here east of New Zealand, but this one is stalling for a very long time. So we go into next week, our final map for next week, and again, it's all about these powerful high pressure zones. So the one to our east, finally weakening a little bit, 1040 to 1036. If you don't understand what that means, it's basically like your lungs being here and breathing out a little bit, and it shrinks just a small amount. And that shrinking just a small amount allows the wet weather behind it to move in. So you might see a little bit of rain returning to some northern areas. And look at this, what a difference between the two countries. With this high bringing in a big cold southerly and windy and pretty nasty around parts of Sydney and New South Wales. And on the New Zealand side, subtropical from the Cook Islands and still much warmer than average. So high pressure, the main drivers of our weather at the moment. It has nothing to do with storms and lows really, although obviously low pressure here and here adds a little bit more into those winds and puts a bit more moisture into the atmosphere as well. But as you can see, it's high pressure, two big highs that are dominating our weather at the moment and going into next week as well. That's all from me for today. Back again tomorrow with our next update. We'll see you then.